Hello gentlemen, welcome back to C.A.R. Entertainment. I'm your host Dylan Hamilton, guys, and today we're going to be moving on with more A21 Digital Technology Revision. Today we're going to be talking about the Data Protection Act. I think it was 2 videos ago, or the one before previous, because last time we talked about data modeling, and then the one before that we talked about the Copyright Act and the Computer Misuse Act and then ethics, and I said later on we talk about the Data Protection Act. Well, this is that video, ladies and gentlemen. The Data Protection Act deserves a video of its own as it is quite thorough. So let's get straight into it then. So an introduction then to the Data Protection Act. The Data Protection Act is an act that aims to safeguard all the information that is held about an individual and is classified as personal. And this is done by ensuring the data is stored and processed fairly and lawfully. So the need for the Data Protection Act, and why was it introduced? So businesses started to use computers to store information, and because databases are easily accessed, searched, and edited, it is far easier to cross-reference information that is stored in 2 or more databases than of records or paper-based. It's just a lot easier to do so. So this then in turn offered an easy way to share information with other organizations. So with more organizations using computers to store personal information, there became a danger that information could be misused. There's 8 principles you need to know. So the Data Protection Act, of course, was introduced because of this reason, because the information could be misused and transferred more often, because obviously people were because it was easy to cross-reference in databases, etc. But there's 8 principles of the Data Protection Act. There's 8 things that you can and cannot do. There's 8 things that talk about personal data and how it's meant to be used. The first one is that personal data has to be processed fairly and lawfully with the consent of the data subject. We'll get through what the data subject, the data commissioner, and the data controller all are later on. The second principle is that the personal data can only be used for the specified purpose. Third one is that personal data has to be accurate and up to date. Personal data has to be adequate and relevant for the intended purpose. The personal data must not be kept for any longer than is necessary. The personal data processed is in accordance with the rights of the data subject, and the personal data must be held securely with no unauthorized access. Personal data must also not be transferred outside the EU. So the key rules, then I said we're going to cover them, so let's do that. The data subject then, this thing called data subject, which we used in the very first point. Well, it's the individual who's the subject of the personal data. It's me or you that give information to somebody else. And that is the data controller. The data controller is the person within a company who is responsible for controlling the way in which data is processed. This is the person you give all your information to, and they have to make sure that the data is processed in the correct way. You then have a data commissioner who is over them, and they are responsible for enforcing the act and promoting good practice from those responsible for the processing of the data, aka the data commissioner. And the data commissioner also makes the general public aware of their rights under the Data Protection Act, or aka the 8 principles. So what rights? So this is also what the commissioner has to do. These make the general public aware of their rights. So these are the rights of the data subject then. The data subject has the right of subject access. So they have the right to be supplied by the data controller with the personal data that is held, but they do have to pay a fee for this. They have the right of correction, so the data subject can force the data controller to correct any mistakes. They have the right to prevent distress, so the data subject can prevent the use of information which is likely to cause distress. They have the right to prevent direct marketing, so they can stop data being used and attempt to promote. So if they're going to use your data to promote their product, so for example, let's say like Dylan said this about our product, I could stop that because it's direct marketing. They also have the right to prevent automatic decisions, so the data subject can specify that they don't want the data user to make automated decisions about them. So that's basically using this data to make the automated decision. They have the right of complaint, so the data subject can ask for the use of personal data to be reviewed by the Information Commissioner just because they're unsure or wary of how it's being used. They also have the right of compensation, so the data subject is entitled to use law to get compensation for damage caused if the personal data is accurate, lost, or disclosed. There are exemptions from the Data Protection Act. There are ways you can get around it that don't have to adhere to the principles. Complete exemptions, so things that do not have to follow the rules whatsoever, are national security. So MI5 and MI6 do not follow the rules if the data requested could harm national security. If you're a terrorist and you have asked for your data which has been held by MI5 or MI6, they do not have to give it to you because it could harm national security. Another complete exemption is personal data, which is held by yourself for purpose of personal, family, or household affairs, such as if you take down your mother or father's passport details or whatever, that's a complete exemption, that's personal data. So a partial exemption then, different partial exemptions include the police. So the police don't have to disclose information that is held or processed to prevent a crime. So the information they hold, if it prevents a crime, they don't have to disclose the information. Health, so a subject has no right to see information stored if it is to do with health. This is a weird one for me because it makes no sense. If you want to see something that's going to do with your health, you should probably be able to see it, but you actually have no right. The doctor can turn around and say no. School, a pupil has no right to see exam results before the publication. That goes without saying. Statistics, the data controller can keep statistics any length of time if they're used for stats, so they can keep the data if it's used for stats, essentially. Research is another partial exemption, which whenever journalists will keep research if it's in the public interest. And in references as well, so employment references written by previous employers are exempt. You then have the impact. So how does the data protection act impact on organizations? Well, an organization can be held responsible for security, accuracy, and conditions of the use of data it holds, and if they don't comply with Data Protection Act, they can be prosecuted. An organization that uses data will have procedures in place to ensure the data is held securely and accurately maintained, and that it is used correctly. They will ensure these procedures are accurate and up to date, involving regular contact with data subjects, asking them to verify currently held details on a regular basis so that they adhere to the principle that data is always accurate and up to date. Data is stored with a data stored has to be consistent with the requirement, and the data is only used for the originally designated purpose, which is under the 8 principles. We also have to ensure to protect the integrity and physical security of the data held. Furthermore, organizations, whenever implementing security measures, including physical access, system access, firewalls, and backups, have to follow the Data Protection Act. And when providing training, they have to ensure all staff are aware of data protection issues. Thanks for watching this video. I'll be Don Hamilton from C.A.R Entertainment, and I will see you next time.